So we are here in our little jungle right above Times Square, and I invited Rick Watson to talk to me. Rick is a consultant, and he also presents Watson Weekly and Watson Weekend. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Paula. I'm really happy to be here.
Here's Paula Macadi. Welcome to OFFBounds.
Rick, the reason I invited you here is because I have so many questions, and I love your insights. I read your LinkedIn posts. I love them. But I'm very curious with the state of commerce in general. But first, just to situate our audience, how did you get into it?
Wow. I think like everyone else, I got into it accidentally. My background is technology, so I kind of grew up in software as a software engineer. And so when I first job out of school, the company I went to work for first happened to be the gentleman, Scott Wingo, who would later go on to found Channel Advisor. But his first company had nothing to do with commerce. And then when I got there, he had already sold the business and started a new one. And so I was like, okay, this is not good. So we joined a new company. It was called Auction Rover. It would later become Channel Advisor. And I spent 10 years there. And so this was in 99, before the dot bubble. So I got to see like some of the run up in the .com revolution, and then got
you
to
saw
live.
You saw the birth pretty much.
Yeah, the birth. And eBay was the biggest auction site. eBay was commerce in 99. I mean, it was the biggest site by far. Amazon was still like very small. Amazon didn't even have a marketplace then. And so I spent 10 years at a software company trying to prove that businesses could sell on a marketplace, which is kind of a crazy idea since any country around the world you go to, 50 to 60% of all commerce is through a marketplace.
You came from the marketplace perspective, right? Which was Channel Advisor. And I feel you still had to explain to a lot of people what that meant in terms of buying online. I think for us to develop to the stage of feeling secure of shopping online, for that to increase our awareness on how to shop online. How much change, right?
So much change. Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, it was like, what did you sell on a marketplace? You sold like trading cards and Beanie Babies, like anything that's in your house you would sell. But the idea that a major brand could sell on a marketplace was a foreign concept. And so that just took years and decades, to play out in the industry. And so kind of moving from kind of a marketplace only point of view, I joined Barnes & Noble in 2011 after I moved to New York City. And then I started working with brands and retailers at Merchantry and Pitney Bowes. And so got into, direct to consumer and supply chain and all the things that make our industry fun.
True. And nowadays, if a brand doesn't have an online presence, it's almost inexistent. I can even name
Does it
one.
happen?
Exactly. First, they start online nowadays, and then they move to having a store.
That's right.
Right? And what do you do exactly at your consulting?
It's interesting and difficult to explain sometimes because consulting is by definition is bespoke. But the short answer is we help companies evolve from one place to the next. And so that takes the form of a couple of different things. Why does someone hire a consultant? Someone hires a consultant because they want a trusted third-party point of view to help them evolve their business. That's the short description as possible. And that third-party perspective becomes a few different things. You assess, like, what is your current situation? Sometimes someone's in a situation they can't even see the forest for the trees. Like,
you can see the label of the bottle from the inside. You sometimes need someone.
So assessment is one. And then planning, like, what should my goals be? How should I plan the next step from people, process, technology, financial investments, all those things that are required to evolve. Everyone always talks about technology and software and platforms, but that's usually sort of the last thing you should pick. You need to start with your customer goals and your financial goals.
And the strategy from there, right?
Exactly.
What your customers want from you, and then go from there.
Yeah, why do I exist at all? And I think a lot of retailers are like, oh, I'll choose this platform and then I'll be faster. I'm like, faster doing what? So.
And as you've been in the industry for so long, I have a question.
Now you're going to make me sound old.
No. But I was seeing the numbers I brought here. So in 2015, 27.1% online orders involved the stores. This number jumped in 2023, 41.9%. What happened? I mean, that's a broad question, but how did we get here? What's the role of the store for these online orders?
Yeah, I think there are a couple different roles. If you think about the best stores in the world, they're an experience. Like they're a place you want to go to learn about whatever topic. It's fashion, is it going outdoors or camping or playing tennis? The best stores are places you want to go to learn and clearly to buy to achieve some goal. I think that's what the best stores are about. And now consumers expect you get that experience not just in the stores, but online. And so consumers are visiting between 5 and 7 channels before making a single purchase now. So if they're on TikTok, on YouTube, or on your website, or they walk into the store, they want the same types of information and experience. Everything is in a phone in your pocket.
Yeah, I've had some experiences where the information was different from the website to the store to the location of the store I was at. And that's very frustrating. I think retailers should have this strategy of giving this unique experience, right? Unified experience in all channels.
Right.
Is there still a place for, what's the name?
People are kind of like digital
pure
native.
Players.
Yeah, the digital pure plays. Yeah, is there a place for the digital pure plays? I think mostly no. If you're a marketplace and that's what you are, I think there can be a good place for them. Obviously, there are big players in most of the markets, but like Alibaba, doesn't hold any inventory. It's Chinese-based. Mercado Libre, depending on the country that you're in. eBay doesn't hold any inventory. So those are pure plays. But most online pure plays, it's very hard for them to stay in front of the customer because you must always be advertising, as you know, costs a lot of money just to stay in front of that consumer.
I think increased 400%. It was an absurd number, the customer acquisition cost. Is that cheaper to have stores than?
Yeah, the short answer is it depends on where the stores are, how many customers are in. If you watch these shows where you have failing stores, the first thing is are there any people on the street? If people aren't going indoors to malls anymore, they prefer, in the United States, these sort of outdoor mall experiences where they can be outside and enjoy the sun and sit on a bench and then go into the store and shop and then come out. And so I think the formats are changing, but the idea of retail as experience is still similar.
Yeah, so you're saying that basically we will need this physical experience to be connected with the brand from now on.
Yeah, I think most brand needs some kind of physical experience to anchor what is it this brand is about. There's so much on a flat screen that you can communicate. You don't get the emotion of walking into a room or the smell of the merchandise or the room. You can't communicate any of that.
It's kind of like a catalog. It's very transactional, I think, when it's online, right? They don't have that connection that you have when it's in store. But I see a lot of brands using what we call nowadays concierge commerce, where you can call to someone that is in the store. I think both the online is coming to the store, so I see flat screens of people touching and having these endless aisles, and the same thing online is I find very interesting how they are connecting. Yeah. But what happened to D2C brands?
Well, a lot of them didn't make it. That's the big thing.
Why? I want to understand what was so attractive about being D2C and what went wrong?
What was so attractive was it seemed to be the next big thing. It seemed to be easy money. And look, investors always love a good disruption story. And so when you can have if you kind of go back to the beginning of where did this mania start, you kind of go back to Harry's Shave Club and Bonobos and some of these brands that were early on that got acquired by big companies. And so investors just see dollar signs. And so they start to attach multiples. They were like, well, what was great about these brands was that they're digital. And so any brand that's digital is worth more money than a physical brand. And that just became gospel.
That's easy.
You don't need expensive stores and employees and everything. And it turns out all those things serve a purpose because they attract consumers. You actually have retention. You're not just paying for the same consumer over and over from Google and Facebook. And so there are a lot of things where there are hardly any profitable direct-to-consumer only online brands, ever.
And what is the most expensive part of this process, I guess? Is the customer acquisition, or is managing the fulfillment strategy?
If you look at any retailer's P&L, I would say there are 3 huge expenses. One is cost of acquiring and marketing customers. Second is the cost of inventory. Inventory is almost always the worst cost because you don't know how much to buy, you don't know where to put it, and if the customer is going to buy it later. And then third is transportation, meaning it's not just the fulfillment, but it's in particular like over half of the cost is the last mile. So if you have your product in New York City and you have to ship it to California, it's going to cost significantly more than if you store your inventory in California for that same customer.
So if let's say I am Allbirds, I'm a wool sneaker.
Allbirds is a lot of trouble right now.
Why?
Mostly profitability. So I think the reason Allbirds is in trouble is sort of like, number one is, I think they just thought they would just keep growing and growing. I think stores was never an initial idea. It was always a reaction to us not being profitable. So I think that's one problem. Second is like the environmentally friendly shoes. They never really penetrated outside of the coastal areas. So like New York City and California and different places.
They got the Silicon Valley guys, the Wall Street guys.
There are only so many of those people. You have to penetrate middle America. You might have to go international. And so there's a lot of competition in those areas. People know Nike or Adidas or those sorts of things. So that's sort of one. Like they had to introduce themselves to new consumers, which is expensive. Second is they added new products to their line that didn't work out. They started selling t-shirts and
I remember those
shorts and
wool
things.
Leggings that would be transparent.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They had some big product misses. And so when we talk about the cost of retail, how much inventory did they buy to put in stores that did not sell? Because no one wants
and where
see-through
is this
leggings.
Inventory? The distribution centers cost a lot of money.
Exactly. So you have inventory sitting there, and now your brand starts to suffer because you had one hit product. You know, what should a company with one hit product do? They need the next hit. And if the next 2 or 3 products are not hits, then I don't care who you are, any company is going to struggle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if every company is like this, but I see that they are going wholesale. I think they understood that the D2C, I think every D2C company is going wholesale.
Yes.
Unless you are someone that does craft things in your house and trying to sell it on eBay, I think everybody's going wholesale. That's a way, I guess, for decrease the customer acquisition price because they're already there. They're being exposed to your product, right?
Yeah. I think now, 5 years ago, you would see investment cases like, oh, I want to start this brand. I want to raise $3 million and it's going to be D2C. And that was the whole plan. Now you don't see that anymore. Now you're like, I want to create a brand. I want $1 million in investment and it's going to have a direct to consumer component. It's going to have a wholesale component. We're going to have our own retail stores. And it's a more holistic, balanced plan that you see in investment cases, at least that I see right now.
But there are some technologies that allow you to make the products on demand, right? So you don't have to store a lot of inventory.
A lot of it, of course, depends on your category. And so there are some products that can be customized. Jewelry is one example. You know, you can get it monogrammed or styled or something,
and then the customer is willing to wait a little bit longer.
Right. And so, there's a balance between how long you wait. And you can go as far as Etsy. You know, it's a marketplace you go to and you can create custom products.
Let's go to my next topic. All right. So every successful brand that is out there, they have the backbone that is making everything happen. And that's the platforms. And we see a lot of quadrants, a lot of analysts talking about the platforms. What would be the strategy for the platform you choose and replatforming, if that's the case?
Yeah, replatforming. Look, it's kind of a topic that's fraught with a lot of peril. I would say if you look at the average top 100 brands in any market, most of those companies have not replatformed in 5 to 10 years. And most of the reason is because of people. Once you select a platform, you hire people who know that platform, and as a result, there's inertia to staying on that platform.
You made a lot of commitment to that platform.
You make a huge commitment to the platform, and tenure in a company is very short. And so if you're a CMO, the average tenure of a CMO has gone from 3 years to 2 years to like a year and a half. The first thing you want to do as a CMO is not replatform, because that's going to take 3 years. If you're any business above $500 million, guaranteed it's going to take 3 years. I don't care what a vendor will tell you.
So companies should replatform, but they just don't do it because it takes a lot of commitment.
It's too scary, it's very expensive, and it fails a lot. There are a lot of replatforms that fail, and more the reason is you change your website and then your SEO drops, or now your customers can't find things. It's like, why did you change my website? And so customers get upset for replatforms. Yesterday, I knew all my purchase history for the past 5 years. I'm a loyal customer of this brand, and I wake up the next day, and if you mess up a migration, it's like your life is gone, you know?
Yeah, I'll be very upset if Amazon just forgot the 12 years of consumption that I have.
Exactly. And so I think most brands are sort of humble enough to realize that it's hard. Like, on the other hand, like, brands need to evolve. You need to provide a better experience. Over enough time, if you look at it as someone who installed the platform 10 years ago versus today, you can tell, like, the checkout is so much slower. It's like 7 steps versus 1 click, right? And so you can just see
you
the
give
errors.
7 chances for car abandonment.
Right, exactly. You can very easily abandon. And so commerce goes through these different eras where the innovation happens. And if you're missing like several generations of innovation, I think the solution has to be to evolve as you go. Like, every year or 2, you need to make small to medium-sized upgrades so that in 5 to 7 years, you don't have to make this one massive change. And I think that's where some of the composability idea comes in. It's like, well, how can I change the front end? Or, okay, how do I change my OMS? Or how do I change where I store product data? And if you can do those things incrementally, then evolution becomes more possible than I have everything in one box and I throw out the box and I have a new box, right?
So yeah, you just switch small elements throughout the years.
Yeah, small elements, but hopefully
with
big
impact.
Big impact. That's the idea.
And each brand has its own necessity, right? Its own needs. So you can pick the right platforms for each case.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, the world doesn't need 100 platforms for 100 brands, but it doesn't need one either. And so there are 3 to 5 platforms in any market that are the leaders generally. And every business has different goals, has a different culture, objectives. Some want to innovate very fast, some are more cautious. I think those platforms can be a better fit for different brands too.
What would be the key elements to judge if you decided to go to the replatforming route? What did you consider?
Wow, so much. I mean, look, like a doctor, one of the rules of doctors have is first do no harm. And so you want to make sure that you keep conversion rate stable, keep your traffic session stable, and your employees know what to do and your customers know what to do. Always goal 1 is like, make sure you don't screw anything up. Common thing that people screw up is their SEO. So like their search engine optimization on Google, their new pages on their new site are not ranking, whereas the other ones did because they've been around for 10 years. Goal number 2 is really, what do we need to do to survive and thrive in the market? And so really understanding what is unique about me as a retailer and as a brand, and ensure that the first part of my digital roadmap matches those capabilities. So like, if my experience is out of date, then maybe I should put that first in the project. Or if my distribution strategy and my order cost to fulfill is too high, then maybe I need an order management system to get the item closer to customers.
Would you, as a retailer, would you consider the analyst firms' quadrants when making this decision?
It's a loaded question. I think the analyst firms do serve a useful purpose because they're an outside agency and they're talking to the vendors. I think the firms have limitations because they're talking to mostly the reference accounts for the vendors themselves who are paying them money to write about them. That said, that list of 5 to 7 companies that they come up with are usually gonna be the top companies. They're not gonna forget about Salesforce or Oracle. There's some question about like, okay, how valuable? Is it the most valuable thing? The reality is it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that as a brand, you know what your requirements are for transformation. And if the vendor isn't going to meet those on their own, like your people are. And so your people need to change to implement the platform in the right way.
One thing that I love about the US for me is like in terms of e-commerce.
Right.
Yeah. And I saw that Walmart is increasing e-commerce. How do you see the state of grocery, of e-commerce in the US? There's still room for growth?
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest growth, retail growth in the US is still, 3% year over year. So it's been like similar to pre-pandemic. That's kind of normalized again. Digital grocery growth has increased since the pandemic. I think more people were willing to try it than before the pandemic. And I think in the US market, Walmart is the leader in grocery. And then you have sort of like Kroger and some others in there. Walmart has been a very interesting case because you remember like 5-6 years ago, they acquired Jet.com. And they were like, oh, we're going to get into e-commerce e-commerce and invested a lot. And most of those stuff didn't work out. And so Walmart, essentially, the way I view Walmart is they're taking pages from two companies' playbooks. They're taking pages from Amazon's playbook, so they started a marketplace and they're paying attention to it, added fulfillment, and they added advertising. That's sort of one set of playbooks. The other playbook is, although Target's not doing so great in the last 2 years, they're still profitable and they're still a good retailer, but they're not growing as fast as they were before. They really did a great job on ship from store in the past 12 years, going from something like 25% of, like if you go to your mobile phone and like say, I want something from Target, there's like a 95% chance that's gonna come from a store, which is a pretty amazing idea because e-commerce started out with like things in distribution centers you would never see.
It gives another reason for the importance of a store.
Exactly, because the store is already close to the consumer, which is great. And so Target not only decided that, look, if we don't have stores, there's no point, like why are we existing? We can't copy Amazon, so we have to make our stores important. And so they made them fulfillment centers, and that not only improved their cost, I mean, it really cut down their costs. So it like reduced their fulfillment costs something like 50-60% in the last 10 years. And that's been a hard journey. Well, Walmart is trying to copy that. And so long story short, they're borrowing playbook pages from Amazon and Target, and because Walmart has already so many customers and so many stores, those benefits have accumulated very quickly.
I saw that they are attracting again more affluent customers and they use in their earnings calls, they use a lot of convenience.
Yeah.
They said convenience many times, so they're making it more convenient. Maybe Walmart is someone for others to watch now.
I think if you're not watching Walmart right now, you're missing a big part of the US e-commerce market. Right now, their e-commerce is growing 22% year over year, which is amazing for them. Although they're not as big as Amazon, what owns 40-something% of e-commerce in the United States. Walmart is still much smaller than that, but still, Walmart's a big company. For anything to be growing 22% is
and it's a trusted brand. I think how Americans appreciate the company.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Walmart always has like low prices. You come here, you're gonna get low prices, but it's not gonna be the most convenient thing, or maybe it won't be the best brand. But I think now Walmart is shifting a little bit such that, oh, you can get the item same day, or you can pick it up in store, and so adding this, or their mobile app is a lot better than before. And so these are all things you used to associate only with Amazon, like same day, next day delivery and all these things. And so this convenience oriented mindset, people who value their time more than price, to me, that's what convenience is about. And that tends to be the same mindset as a more affluent shopper. More affluent shopper values their time more than the extra 5% discount.
Very good.
Yeah.
And which other retailers should we be watching?
Yeah, other retailers, I mean, look, retail is in a big state of churn right now. And so I think Macy's is in a place where in the last couple of years, they have been under attack they've undergone this huge digital change, but then there's a lot of underperforming stores. And so they're investors that are looking at Macy's. They said they're going to sell off a third of their stores, like just shut them down.
And they're huge.
They're such a huge, like here in New York City, I mean, Herald Square, it's an iconic Macy's. They're
not selling that one.
It's a great store. They can't sell that one. They might as well shut down all of Macy's. They don't want to have the Thanksgiving Day parade and everything. No.
We still want that. Macy's continue.
Exactly. We need the balloons and everything.
We do, yeah.
But I think Macy's is interesting. But yeah, those are, we talked about a couple of them, Target, Walmart, Amazon.
The traditional ones.
Yeah, the traditional ones. I think a lot of the traditional ones it's more difficult. Nordstrom's, for instance, has been not doing so great the last couple of years, and such that they've been public for over 20 years. And now they're talking about going private again because they need to transform. Maybe they need some new investment. And so I think the traditional department store, if they haven't reinvented themselves, those are a lot of companies to watch, like your Macy's, your Nordstrom, your Belk's or Dillard's. Like all these companies, it's just hard for them.
Do you think this is one of the reasons why there's so much of the Chinese marketplaces entering the country?
Chinese marketplaces, I think people just like cheap stuff. I don't know what to do. Look, they've been around there's always been AliExpress, but it never really penetrated the US market before for whatever reason. I think maybe it's just the pandemic just got everyone shopping for cheap things online so that they're now looking. Maybe I don't know why.
I interviewed Chinese specialists And I talked about this episode several times with you. And she said they're very good at merchandising. They know what people want.
Yeah.
And they make it affordable, easy to access. So that might be the reason.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a blouse that's $3, if it looks nice, you might as well get it, you know?
But what are the trends in commerce that you're seeing that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, the big things, I think returning to the roots of retail, like, I think with this sort of unified commerce world, we're not in a place where no one thinks anymore like, oh, we only need stores. We only need a digital experience. We only need mobile. We need all of those things. And I think people are thinking more critically about what's the point of this channel? What do I want the consumer to get when they visit me in this channel? And how can I bring that unified experience from, like, if someone visits me in the store, I should know their online history. And the client representative that they're talking to should know their online history, because I might know there's a new season of something that they should try. And so I think that's the most interesting thing to me, is retailers are becoming more thoughtful about why is this channel important as a part of my overall experience. I mean, I think AI is like a little bit of a fake answer, because right now most people are using AI to cut costs. You know, they're like reducing support staff and things like that. I do think AI will become more part of customer experience and maybe improving imagery and things like that. But we're still not quite there yet where the benefits of AI are, it's just more potential, right?
Yeah, well, after this last update from ChatGPT for all, I'm excited to see what's going to come from that, because... Have you tried?
I haven't tried the new one. I tried the last one. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I asked yesterday my ChatGPT for all, what should I know about Rick Watson? I will show you the answer.
You're shocked.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
She told me everything about you.
That's great.
Yeah. Rick, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.